Networking and marketing made simple is for you, the business owner that has a product, service, or message that you truly believe in. My name is Scott Aaron, and each week we'll take a behind the scenes look at real world networking and marketing tactics while leveraging LinkedIn to get what you have in front of many more people. Thanks for spending time with me, and let's get started. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Networking and Marketing Made Simple. Super excited for today's episode for a number of reasons. Obviously, you guys know it's Thursday, so this is an interview episode. But number two, I'm excited to talk to the individual I have for you guys today. She has a wonderful business, but the genre or the niche that she is in is actually quite an interesting one. And I'm excited to talk to her about that with all of you today. She is a podcaster, a YouTuber, and focuses a lot around people that have pets, mostly women, some people that are childless and they just have pets and stuff. And again, that drew obviously a lot of comparisons. Obviously, I'm a dad, but we do have 4 dogs, so there's a lot of relatability there. And I know a lot of people that listen to this are also animal lovers. So again, we're going to talk about all that and more. So Charlie Dice, welcome to today's episode.
Yeah, thanks, Scott. Thanks for that nice intro. Excited to be here.
Absolutely. So before we get into the guts of everything that you're focusing on, if we were able to rewind the tape on your journey in business and you could press stop at a moment that you truly feel was your moment or that catalytic moment that kind of set you on the path that you're on now and obviously moving into the future, what was that moment for you?
Yeah, that moment happened about a year and a half ago now. And I hope I can be candid on here. I'm open to talking about it, but I had my third and final miscarriage after IVF. And so it may not seem related necessarily to my business, but it is because at that point, my husband and I had made the decision like, okay, we had struggled for 8 years to start a family. We're just going to kind of close that chapter and move on to the next one in our lives. And so that was the point at which I was like, okay, now what? I'm not going to be a biological mother. We didn't feel called to adopt or foster. But I had always had pets. I had always had dogs, and they became and were my children. And so I thought, now that I'm not going to kind of be in the mommy realm, so to speak, what is my purpose? And so that really sparked some reflection, and it, allowed me to kind of experiment with a few things. And that's what kind of led me into the podcasting and the YouTube space, especially, in the pet niche, but making it a little different in kind of taking that child-free, childless, not by choice spin on it.
Well, first, I just want to commend you on your transparency and vulnerability. It's Nancy and I have our own story that one day we may share. Um, because we've had, some ups and downs in that process as well. And I think, there's a lot of people that don't necessarily talk about it, and that's completely okay. And
Yeah.
I would say the other side of the coin, outside looking in, a lot of people think that it's really easy to have kids. You just see people getting pregnant left and right. Uh, but you have no idea what that journey was that led to that final, yes, it happened. But I would say I would also commend you for you and your husband having that emotionally mature conversation saying, you know what, we can't say we didn't try, we did. Um, but there's a lot of emotional things that come along with things not going the way that, again, uh, they're supposed to be predicted or the way that the chapters of our life are supposed to be written. And I remember my wife was talking to this one woman. I don't know if they were in a networking group together or something, and this woman had shared that I think she had gone through almost like a half, almost three-quarters of a dozen miscarriages. And it ended up severely damaging the relationship between her and her partner, and they ended up not staying together. And you know, I think everyone has a different path that they have to go on, and I think there's some great things that come from the paths that we go on. My dad was in prison for 2.5 years. That's how I kind of got into entrepreneurship and business ownership as a teenager. And outside looking in, people may say, well, that's terrible, that you had to go through that. But there's a silver lining in all of it. There's great things that come from that, much like the story that you just shared. There's a lot of people out there that would kind of sit in that space that they're in and not do anything with the experience that they went through. But you saw the other side of the coin. I can use my experience to go on a different path. And I think above all else, it just shows how much you cherish and appreciate the relationship that you have with your husband. Because, yes, a lot of it is on the woman, because a lot of the process obviously is on her. But the emotional entanglement that happens between a husband and wife as they go through that process, it's a lot. And I've heard a lot of stories. And again, I just want to commend you for sharing all that with the audience. I know there's a lot of people that are listening that are probably nodding their heads right along with us, that they totally, totally resonate with that. So thank you for that. Now,
Yeah, absolutely.
so the spark was lit after you guys closed that chapter, and it was not an easy chapter to close, and no one would have expected it to be. And it was only a year and a half ago. So catch the audience up what's transpired over the last 18 months. And if you could summarize what those 18 months were like and what you took away most from it, what was the big lesson in all of it?
Yeah, absolutely. So the last 18 months have been some of the hardest, but the best of my life. I never saw myself as an entrepreneur, but like I said, when I, kind of made that shift and thought, okay, well, what's going to be the trajectory now of my life? What is my purpose? And I've been in corporate America for 14 years, and I was just starting to feel really burnt out. And so I still have that job, but when this whole shift happened, I thought, you know what? There just has to be more than this. There has to be more out there. And how can I use this experience that I went through, to serve other people and actually talk to other people? Because it's a very lonely place to be, especially when you're going through an infertility journey, but then even afterwards, it can be even lonelier because you don't know who to talk to about it and who's comfortable opening up. So the last 18 months have been a lot of, reflection and also just trying to figure out, where I fit in this world as a human being. And it's been really fun, but it's been really tough. And like I said, the biggest things I think to summarize is kind of finding my place within the community, not just of women, but of the business community as well. A lot of people don't necessarily see talking about pets and talking about child-free lives as a business, and so that's been a little bit of a shift to get used to. But yeah, I guess to summarize, it's mostly been just talking to people, sharing my story, opening up, making other people feel comfortable to share their own stories, and then just seeing where we can take that and seeing how we can kind of shift that narrative to making it not necessarily about us, but about our legacy and leaving a legacy even with our pets and just enjoying life. I think a lot of us forget that too, and I know I did for the 8 years that I went through infertility. It completely consumes you. And I came out of it and I was like, you know what? I think business can be something that can also be fun. And so that's kind of why my business specifically is geared towards, something that came out of a heavy topic, but is more lighthearted and fun, and just reminding people that, even as adults, it's okay to have fun.
So well, first, what did you do for the decade and a half in corporate? And coupled in with that, what skill set, or what do you feel you learned most in that decade and a half in corporate that has enabled you to kind of shift over to the entrepreneurial world, doing the podcasting, doing the YouTubing, and how has it helped you?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is just learning how to network and learning how to talk to people and learning that even if someone, shares a story with you and it doesn't sound like you have similarities, that you actually do. And so, that kind of obviously transitioned me into the entrepreneurial space by allowing me to say, okay, this person, we may not see eye to eye on things surface level, but if we actually just have a conversation with each other, there's a lot of things that we have in common. And so being in corporate America too, it just kind of opened my eyes to the type of life that is possible, the type of life that I want to lead, and have it not necessarily being the norm, and kind of being able to step outside of that.
So let's talk about the uniqueness of your business. So if you could summarize exactly what Charlie is doing now as a podcaster with her new podcast and as a YouTuber, what are you teaching the audience? And, what are some of the things that have bubbled to the surface for you as far as people that are taking away from the things that you're teaching and educating on?
Yeah, and so I think what I do essentially right now, the podcast is new, but with the YouTube channel, I essentially find myself or call myself an edutainer. And I know that you and I had talked about that when you were on my podcast recently. And so I really try to educate people on, if they don't have children, but they have pets, here's how you can provide your pet with the best life possible. And I mean, obviously, pets, depending on how you look at it, are not a substitute for children, but in our world they can be. And so I currently write personalized feeding plans for people who are interested in taking the road of maybe like a raw or fresh diet, something other than commercial kibble. I also do one-on-one calls with people that are just kind of dipping their toes into that nutrition space and trying to see if this is something that is right for them. I have a decade of experience in doing that. And so just kind of trying to, again, educate people, but also entertain them. I mean, dogs are super entertaining, right? So just having fun with it too, and just, allowing people to kind of see that, yes, you can actually create a family around your pets. And you can give them the best, nutrition and care, and making sure that people really know what they're getting into, with pet ownership as well, and responsible pet ownership.
So obviously some people have had, pets for a while, whether it's cats or dogs or whatnot. We have a couple koi ponds, so we have, some fish as well. Uh, for for the people that are listening to this that may not completely understand, maybe they're looking to integrate their dog, multiple dogs, but maybe they need some personalized attention. What kind of transformations have you seen with some of the people that you've worked with, going from where they were to not really understanding exactly, customized feeding plans and all those things, to where that individual or those individuals that you worked with now, what's the big transformation that you're seeing in people?
Yeah, so the big transformation, and I'll kind of narrow it down into that nutritional space. So it started because of my own experience with struggling with chronic digestive issues in my own dogs. And so that, morphed into doing a ton of research and going down the rabbit hole there. And so, now when I write nutrition plans for folks for their dogs, it really, the transformation is having them go from a dog that is, maybe chronically ill, to where modern medicine and veterinarians cannot figure out, a solution or even an economical solution for that family, to then shifting them to one where, the dog is actually thriving again. They're not having to pay out exorbitant medical bills. They can actually take their dog and enjoy them, while also being, on a budget. And so it's really that transformation of allowing their dog the opportunity, and the family the opportunity, to maybe have that pet around for longer. And so that's been the most fulfilling part for me. Obviously, our dogs can't live forever, just like none of us can. But if we can extend that life and allow for a better quality of life while they're here, then that's the transformation, and that's what we're shooting for.
What would your tips be for? So, a family of four, two young kids, and they're contemplating getting a dog, adding it to the mix of the family. But, again, the kids are at the age where, you know, they're still kind of working through that. I mean, they're, um, young elementary school age, and there's a fear that, integrating the dog may be a little bit challenging and how the kids would handle it. You know, walk the audience through a scenario such as that, and what kind of things could, and because I'm sure there's a lot of people that are listening resonating with that. What tips would you give that family or those individuals of how they can integrate, either an adopted dog or a puppy into a situation like that?
Yeah, I think the biggest tip I have is just to honestly treat the dog as another child. And that might seem like a bit of a stretch, but honestly, not having children myself, I'm not going to judge, parents for what they do or don't do. But, the biggest tip is just treating the dog as a child or as a member of the family and trying to make sure that even before you make that decision to get the dog, really sit down as a family and go, okay, is this something that we just want? Or is this something that we can really see ourselves committing to for the long term? And, that might be 6 years, that might be 15 years, you don't know. And also to make sure that, you have the time. It's just, again, I don't have children, but I have nieces and nephews. And so I assume it's just like, having children, like if you invest time in them, then they will reciprocate that with just a deeper relationship with you. And so, if you're still on the fence and you do have a busy family life and you do have kids, really just kind of be honest with yourselves and think about that before making that purchase or adopting that dog, and just seeing it as a responsibility rather than just something fun and something that you want to add to the chaos, so to speak. And then my biggest tip for if you decide to make the jump and get the pet or get the dog, and it's there, is again just treating it as you would one of your kids, and spending enough time with it that it's feeling fulfilled emotionally, physically, mentally, all of that. And making sure that you can commit to that for the long term.
So everything that you're doing now with the podcast and the YouTube channel, who have you seen come through or populate through the episodes that you're dropping, the videos that you're uploading? Who are some of the people that are kind of stepping forward that you're now working with?
Yeah, it's really people. I mean, on my channel, I have Bernese Mountain Dogs, and so that's the breed that I'm most familiar with. And so a lot of the people that I work with now that have stepped forward are people that, have always been interested in that breed, but yet just don't really feel like they know enough about it to make the jump to actually purchase one. And then the breed does unfortunately have a lot of health issues, for a myriad of reasons. And so they're also people that have just gotten their first Bernese Mountain Dog. And so they're coming to me and they're saying, okay, well, this is happening or that's happening. How do I handle that? How do I, make sure I'm doing best by the dog? And so it's kind of those two groups, people who are just kind of curious about more intense pet ownership, on a level that people without children can normally do, but also people that have the dog that are now having issues and just want someone to, to work with them one on one, to bounce ideas off, and just to really not feel alone in the problems that they're facing.
So I'm not going to put words in your mouth, but I would say that, they tell you, you're never completely ready to have kids. And sometimes there is some planning that goes into that. You just have to kind of just jump in. Would you say the same goes for getting a dog? And if there is a best and worst time, whether it's, where someone is in their life and their career or their living situation, you know, are there times where you would make that suggestion to an individual saying, listen, with your situation, I wouldn't recommend getting a dog right now. I would wait. And like, what comes up for you when something like that is brought to your attention? When is it a good idea? When is it a bad idea?
Yeah, so one of the times that I would say not to, and it's hard nowadays because I know this is a lot of folks with the current economy and everything, but if you're really living paycheck to paycheck and you can't support your own, self and family, whether that's a family of one, two, five, um, then it's probably not the right time to get a dog. I would also say too, if you have hobbies that keep you out or a job that keeps you out of the home a lot, unless you're going to travel with the dog, it's probably, I don't recommend getting one. But on the other hand, I'll give you an example in my own life of a time where probably someone would have told me, and actually my husband told me, no, we're not getting a second dog. We were building our house and we lived in a 900-foot square apartment, and my husband built it himself. And so he was gone all the time. And so it was just me. And he didn't want another dog because he didn't want a puppy. They're just like kids. They're up at night, taking them out every 2 to 3 hours. And he said, no, I don't have the, stamina for this. I need my sleep. I don't want to go through it right now. I did it anyway, but that was because I was, lonely. He was gone a lot. And so I knew as a single, I was married, but as a single woman, that was going to be a way to, fulfill my days, so to speak, when I came home from work and not just have, not just sit and watch Netflix. So in that case, yes, it caused a little bit of a rift for the time being. It's funny because it ended up that the dog that we got, it's his dog now. It's, completely attached to him. But so, it's a case by case situation like that. But mostly, finances and just time, and your lifestyle. If the dog is going to suit your lifestyle, not, for you to, make the dog fit into it, make it so that your lifestyle is conducive to the dog.
So before I get to my final question, if someone is interested in learning more about your podcast, your YouTube channel, and even some of the services that you provide, what's the best way for people to find out more about Charlie and how she can help them?
Yeah, you can head to my YouTube channel. It's Beauty and the Burners. That's the same name as the podcast. The podcast is on all listening platforms, including my YouTube channel. Or you can always email me at beautyandtheburners@gmail.com.
Awesome. So final question, Charlie, before we sign off, what does success truly mean to you?
Oh, that's a good question. To me, it just really means freedom. And I'm not even talking like monetary freedom, but just freedom to be able to, say that I am making a difference, but I'm also fulfilling myself as well. So it's kind of like I fill your cup at the same time that I'm filling mine. And so for me, it's just that freedom to say, let's help each other, but also it's beneficial to both of us as well. So I think that's how I would answer that.
That's great. So, all the information that Charlie talked about with her podcast, her YouTube channel, email, that will all be in the show notes, and even the email that goes out along with this episode. So you're not going to have to look too far in order to connect with her. So Charlie, I just want to thank you again so much for being here today. Again, for being so open, so vulnerable, and sharing your journey and the pivots that you've had to make. And just want to wish you continued success, and thank you for sharing what you do with my audience. I know they're going to take so much away from it. And I know that they're definitely going to be reaching out to you when they need your service. So thank you again for being here.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So again, all the information on Charlie, what she does, and how to connect with her will be in the show notes and the description of this episode. So everyone, please enjoy the rest of your days, and I'll talk to you next time. Thank you so much for checking out today's episode. If you could, please support this podcast by hopping over to Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or any place that you're listening to this. Leave us a rating and review. Let us know what you loved most and what you would like to hear more of. But also, if you would like to learn how to take your business to the next level, whether it's using LinkedIn or working directly with myself and Nancy in our intimate group coaching programs, you can head over to www.thetimetogrow.com or scottaaron.net to learn more. Thank you again for your support, love, and gratitude, and I'll talk to you soon.